Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nivasesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatane Om Ganatamirandasya Janajana Salakaya Chakshu Sumilitanjena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadavayam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vansakalpa Trubhascha Kripa Sindhuba Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. Does anyone feel happy? Does anyone feel tired? Hare Krishna. Please show the first slide is, nope, the Chaito Dharpana Marjanam in transliterated English. Anyway, everyone who knows the verse can say it. There it is. Chaito Dharpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Navapanam Shaya Karaiva Chandrika Vataranam Vidyuvaru Jivanam Anandam Buddhivarjanam Patipatam Punamrita Svadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. If you remember, as far back as yesterday, but we can see it here as well, that the hyphens between the English transliteration of the Bengali of the Sanskrit indicates there's one word, only one word, Chaito Dharpanam, one word, Bhava Mahadavagni Navapanam, just one word, etc. So each of the qualities of the holy names that are mentioned here are one word. Does anyone remember the one word that doesn't fit into this category? Pratipadam. Pratipadam. That's a separate word. Pratipadam Purna Amrita Aswadanam. But the Pratipadam, step by step, is really applicable to every one of the qualities of the holy names that are mentioned in this verse. And remember, Mahaprabhu was a great scholar, the greatest scholar. Remember that Mahaprabhu, of course, knew everything as the Supreme Lord. And very consciously, he composed this Shikshastakam to explain the entire philosophy. Everything is in these 8 verses, everything compressed into 8 verses. Please turn off your mobile phone. Thank you, whoever just phone went off there, because it reminded me to say, you should turn off your mobile phones. Either that or you can put them on cow ringtone, and then we won't mind. And the second verse, the Bengali, you'll be able to note that there, it's not just one word. The verse is shorter. But yet there are many words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's one there. But there are so many words The poetry of Mahaprabhu in Successticum isn't only images and poetry. This verse is quite different. Go to the first part of it, or rather we'll say the English, I think. Yes, everyone together. Nam nam akari buhuda niva sarva shaktis tatra pita nimyata smarane nakala hitadasi tabakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva midri samiha nanujanuraga. Many small words, 5 concepts will be described here. Okay, now the first concept or the first exposition isn't going to be an image. It's going to be a philosophical point. Nam nam akari bahuda, of the names manifested many, or you have manifested many forms of your holy names. You have manifested many forms. Nam nam akari bahuda, many of the names, many names you have manifested. Nam nam, names. You have manifested many of them. And these names come in different categories. They're considered, according to our acharyas, 2 categories, primary and secondary. The primary names have to do with the material creation, as in Paramatma or Ishvara or Paramishvara. They have to do with the material creation. And then there are other names that don't have to do with the material creation exactly, but they have to do with Krishna's potencies or Krishna's sweetness, where they're actually divided into 2 parts of the other names. Krishna's sweetness, that's one, and Krishna's sweetness, but mixed with Aishwarya, the names of Vaikuntha, Vaikuntanath. Anyone can think of another name in that category? Raise your hand, though. I almost heard. Yes. Dwarkadis. But there's more sweetness in that one. But still, the residents of Dwarka, they knew that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were intimate with him, but still they knew he was the Supreme Lord. And then there are the names that are composed just of sweetness, the Braja names, such as, raise your hand if you'd like to say one of those names. Yes, you raise your hand so quickly. I can't hear it though. Govinda, Govinda. Yasodanandana, Shama Sundar, Gopal, Gopinath, there's Nandanandana, Nandasuno. So many sweet names that just have to do with Krishna's relationship with his devotees. So here's the first point, that Krishna has manifested many names. And why has he manifested these names? Our acharyas explained, because there are so many different individuals who want to relate to Krishna in their own way, according to their own desires. So Krishna manifests these different names, so different individuals can chant the names that are most sweet to them. Okay, everyone close your eyes for a moment. Now think of this point. Think of the message that Mahaprabhu wants to give us at this point. It's a philosophical message. But think of what this means to you. And think perhaps of your own most dear name, Sapriya Nama Kirta, the name that's most dear to you of Krishna out of his many names. Keep your eyes closed. But think of him having many names, so many names, unlimited names. And think of what pictures, images come to your mind through, close your eyes, you're peeking. Think of what image comes to your mind. And the relevance of this for you, that Krishna has so many names. And then perhaps you have a desire. The best part of you perhaps has a desire, and form that desire in relationship to this point, into a prayer, to this philosophical gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And make it a real prayer, something that you really are attached to, with that image in your mind of Krishna in the form that's dear to you in that holy name. Okay, now everyone can open their eyes. And we'll go to the second part of the verse. Nam namakari Buddha Niva Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita. Needs Krishna's own Sarva Shakti, all of his own potencies. Tatra, therein the holy names, within the holy names. Tatrapita, he has bestowed all his Shaktis into his names. Now, we could move on to the next part, but we won't right now. But some of the concepts of this point, Krishna is kind. Bhagavan Mamapi. We will hear this in the next, next. He's so kind that he has put his whole energies, he himself, Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Purna Shuddho Nitya Sutta, Abhinatvam Nama Namanam, Purna, completely, Shuddha, completely himself in his names. He has so many names, and in those names, he has put all himself, made himself abhina, not different from those names. Now, philosophical point, but close your eyes. And what does that mean for you? Consider that. What does that mean for you? That Krishna has bestowed, placed, by his own free will, by his own desire. He didn't have to do it. But he's bestowed all his own potencies, his very self, in his holy names. So many holy names. Now, what does this mean for you? And think of yourself in relationship. Think of yourself in relationship to this point, this philosophical point. And what does it mean to you? How is it relevant in your life? Okay, slowly open your eyes. We'll go on to the next point of philosophy that Mahaprabhu has placed. He's given us this. He wants us to know these points, many names. And in each of those names, he has placed himself. Now, next, another philosophical point. Niyamata, the regulations. There are so many regulations about in the Vedic processes. Smarane nakala. But there is no regulation about chanting, remembering smarane, Krishna's names. That means there is no regulation that you can be with Krishna in the form of his holy names. When one is worshiping the deity, for example, there are so many rules and regulations. One has to be very clean, especially, and one has to offer it in this way, the incense in this way, and then the lamp, the fan, the flowers 3 times to the feet, incense, this, that, this. The deity has to be installed. What to speak of Vedic sacrifices, that if you pronounce the word, one word incorrectly, you can have the complete opposite result from the sacrifice. Instead of someone being the enemy of Indra, you can end up with Indra's enemy. Just by a slight mispronunciation of the complicated Vedic mantras. The exact opposite result. But with Krishna's holy names, there's no rules and regulations to remember them, to chant them. In fact, Mahaprabhu will say, Kirtaniya Sadahari. We should always chant Krishna's names. When Mahaprabhu, just before he took sannyas, no one knew he was going to take sannyas. And devotees would treat him in the way that they usually treated him, and they'd bring him a garland, they'd bring him, Srila brought him a lao loki sabji. And Mahaprabhu very gravely told the devotees that you should always chant Krishna's names. When you are sleeping, you should chant Krishna's names. When you are eating, you should chant Krishna's names. There's no restrictions. You can't eat while worshiping the deity or performing a Vedic sacrifice. It is so strict, the Vedic culture, actually. So strict. There is one devotee I know from Nepal who was born in a very strict Brahminical family. And he was telling me many years ago about his grandfather, who was disgusted with the younger direction. Because he said, the next thing I'll see with all you is you'll be wearing short pants. If you associated in that culture, if you associated with someone of a lower caste, they would have to bathe. And pardon the expression, if one would had to lagu shankar, that's the proper way to say it. But if one had to use the bathroom, you'd have to face in a particular direction. If you had a shower, according to the seasons, you'd have to face in a different direction. To get the results of increasing your piety, so you could have a better birth, but according to Mahaprabhu here, there's no restrictions for chanting the holy names. Indeed, there's a pastime that's told of when Mahaprabhu was exiting the toilet area, he was biting his tongue. And one little boy whose name was Gopal said, why are you doing this? And he said, I can't stop chanting the holy names. My tongue always wants to chant the holy names, but I'm in a dirty place. I shouldn't chant the holy names. Mahaprabhu's pastimes are like this. He wants to glorify his devotee. And young Gopal said, what happens if it's the time for you to leave this world and your body has lost control and you're passing this and passing that? Will you still hold your tongue and not chant the holy names? He said that in his childish innocence to Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu, to teach us all, said, yes, you are correct. You are Guru, you are teaching me correctly that we should always chant the holy names regardless of the time, regardless of the place, continuously if we can. You have taught me well, and therefore your name is not just Gopal, but your name is Gopal Guru. Close your eyes. And think of the philosophical implications or what happens to you because of this point. Why is Mahaprabhu instructing you, us, on this point? And then think of your own life in relationship to this point. Krishna has made himself available at every time, and all his potencies are there. Even the deity curtains, the deity doors sometimes close. He's so kindly manifested in the form of his vigraha, his deity, but sometimes the curtains close. But the curtains never close for Krishna's holy names. What is the implication of this for you in your own life? And offer a prayer to your favorite deity, to your Guru Maharaj, to Vaishnavas in regard to this point that Mahaprabhu was giving us. To cure us. Offer your prayer. Nam Nam Akari Bahuda. You have manifested so many names. Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita. And you have put yourself and all your energies in these holy names. Niyamata Smaranena Kala. And there's no rules and regulations for chanting them anytime, any place. Eating, sleeping, here, there. I'm yours, says Krishna in the form of his names. I'm yours. What is your prayer? Okay, please open your eyes and we'll go to the next one. Itadrasi. These 3 points first. You have so many names. All your energies are within those names. You yourself are in those names. And you can be with me at any time, any place. I'm yours. But this, O Lord, Bhagavan, I found this line very touching. He says, Bhagavan Mam, O my Lord, Mam, my Lord, O Bhagavan, you are a person, you are Bhagavan who possess all opulences, but not only you are a person, you are my Lord. Such is your mercy, itadrisa, Such is Tava Kripa. This is your mercy that you've made yourself completely available in this way. But there's one other word. And what is that other word? That I didn't say anything about. I heard it somewhere floating. Yes, api means although. Although such is your mercy, O Lord, O my Lord. Although, and now the sentence will be completed and the verse will be completed. Although such is your mercy, O Lord. Durdaivam, it is my bad fate. Durdaivam, not daivam, but durdaivam. It is my misfortune, my bad fate. Idrisam, that in them, in these holy names, even though you've made me yourself completely, the all-attractive makes himself completely available to us. The Supreme Lord makes himself available. Here I am. Take me, take me, take me. Be with me at any time, any place, eating, sleeping, anytime, any place, whether you're happy, sukhi, dukhi, bolo, nako, badane, harinam, korore. My bad fate is ihajani means born, iha, in these holy names. Na anurag. I have no attachment. This is my misfortune. Someone saying, here, take this billions and billions of dollars, something even a whole room this big full of diamonds and rubies, a whole universe filled with happiness. And we say, no, thank you. I'm busy today. I have so many important things to do. This is true misfortune. But yet, although this is true wealth, I am unfortunate. Now, close your eyes for a moment and think about what this means, what Mahaprabhu was telling us, what he wants us to know. And think about how this applies to yourself. And even create in your mind a picture that you are in, an image that you are in, approaching the holy names, approaching the Vaishnavas, approaching Guru Maharaj, approaching Prabhupada, approaching C.C. Gornatai, approaching Radharshama Sundar, your favorite deity, the one that you have the closest attraction to, and approaching the holy names, and you've tasted the holy names, and yet. So keep a picture in your mind of this, an image. The implications of this. By your mercy, O Lord, by your kindness, you've given yourself. And now offer your prayer. Okay. Now, when one hears Mahaprabhu's instruction in this regard and thinks of it in an introspective way, applies it to oneself and sees, considers one his own misfortune, then the question is what to do. If your misfortune is considered to be poor, the solution is becoming wealthy. If your misfortune is that you have no education, the solution is to become educated. If you have no land and feel yourself unfortunate, solution, somehow or another, get some land. What to do? What to do if one recognizes in oneself the misfortune of not having a taste for that which is given to us so freely by the Supreme Lord. Our acharyas have specifically, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur have specifically recommended some verses to say. Some of them from Srila Rupa Goswami's Namastakam. But first I'd like to say that there are different causes of this type of misfortune, of non-attraction to the holy names. One is immaturity in bhakti. And for that one, Srila Prabhupada actually speaks about, Krishna willing, I'll even be able to find it, yes, a verse from the Upadeshamrita. Krishna nama charita disitapya vidya pito patapta rasanasya narochikanu kintu adarad anudinam kalutsayava jushta svadvikramad bhavati tad kadamula hantri. The holy name, this is when what to do and to how to proceed if one just sees one is immature in Krishna consciousness. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendentally sweet, like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of ignorance, of avidya, if one has the disease of jaundice, he cannot taste anything sweet, even though it is sweet. But, the verse Srila Rupa Goswami describes, but it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural taste, a natural relish, a natural attachment awakens within the tongue by chanting every day according to the proper processes. And the disease is gradually destroyed at the root, at its very cause. And what's the cause? Krishna Bhule says, Jiv turning our back on Krishna. Everyone in this conditioned soul in the world has some enmity, envy with Krishna, and we turn our back on him. I don't want to be in my natural relationship with you. And the process of sadhana bhakti, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is the process of from going from the state of this towards Krishna to the state of turning towards him. That is the purpose of sadhana bhakti, turning towards our relationship with him. Prabhupada explains in his purport, the holy name of Krishna, his qualities, his pastimes, and so forth, they are all absolute truth. They are all Krishna. But naturally, they are very sweet. Just like naturally, sugar candy is sweet. And it appeals to everyone. But ignorance, nescience, is compared to the disease cause jaundice, the turning our back on our natural relationships. Jivera Surupoi Krishna, Nityadas. This is who I am. We're covered by so much ignorance and so entangled. This material world Maya is so entangling that if we look in the mirror of our consciousness, we can't even see who we are. There's our karma, there's all the complexities, the complexes of our psyche, just whirling and buzzing around. We can't even recognize our relationship with the one who is our dearest friend due to these factors. Attacked by jaundice, the tongue of a diseased person cannot relish sugar candy. Rather, a person with jaundice considers something to be that's sweet naturally to be bitter. Ignorance, avidya, perverts, destroys the natural relationship and turns it into something else, perverts the ability to relish that name, those qualities, the form and pastimes of Krishna. But there's hope. Despite this disease, if one with great care and attention takes to Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name and hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes, hearing the pastimes of Krishna and chanting, hearing about how wonderful Krishna is, his qualities, his beauty. In this way, if one does this regularly, his ignorance will be destroyed and his tongue will be enabled to taste the sweetness of the transcendental nature of Krishna and everything connected to Krishna. Such a recovery of spiritual health is possible only by the regular cultivation. Cultivation means it's done in a regular way. That kind of activity, that kind of work almost, that kind of sadhana is required. But it will come if we just do it. Don't get off the train. Stay on the train. And it will happen. As Jagatrini Mataji had told me, or has been saying for a while, that things that I didn't consider possible or couldn't understand years ago now seem very obvious and understandable and perhaps even easy to do. So staying with the process, the proper process, is so important. But this is the natural development of Krishna consciousness. But there are other things that inhibit, that stop that natural Krishna consciousness from developing. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they describe what those things are, and they're basically, and also Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, quoting Mahaprabhu himself, speaking to Srila Rupa Goswami in the 19th chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita's Madhya Lila. He says in that chapter, he talks about weeds, upasaka gan, weeds were it's an embarrassing story to tell, but when we first, as young devotees, Mataji and I were in Hong Kong, the local Hindu temple gave us a tulsi plant, but we were in one little room with no light, and we never practically even saw a tulsi plant in those days. It was 1970. Most of you were just a gleam in the eye of something or other at that time. So we were trying our best to take care of it, and it died. But we saw a little plant coming up. And we thought it must be baby tulsi. It was a weed. And for quite a few weeks, we were, Namo Namah. And that's, it is a bit embarrassing, but it explains a lot. And that weed grew very well. And we thought it was Tulsi until someone said, looked at it and said, that's not Tulsi, that's a weed. So similarly, we may be chanting and hearing, but our bhakti lata that's growing will be that watering of chanting and hearing, Shravanadi Jal, Ihan Mali Nitya Sechi Shravanadi Jal. We may be watering weeds, and what are those weeds that will stop our bhakti from growing and destroy our taste? So Mahaprabhu tells Jiva Goswami some of them, Nitya Siddhachar, Kutina, that was diplomacy, activities unsuitable for a devotee, Kutinati, diplomatic actions, hypocrisy in our dealings, Jiva himsam, violence to living entities, Jiva himsam, labha, puja, wanting material things in extent. We're serving Krishna, just see the results. I'm getting so much. Puja, to be worshipped. Labha puja, pratisthani, that I get the prestige. Oh, he's a this, he's a that, he's a good speaker, this, that. Labha puja, pratisthani, adi, and so many others like this, subtle things. Because Krishna is so kind that he will give us whatever we want. And therefore, as Maharaj was mentioning this, we should be very careful about our desires and what we let into our consciousness, because what we let into our consciousness and bad association in so many forms will plant so many materialistic desires in our hearts, and that'd be like weeds that take up. And Krishna will say, oh, you want this? What else do you want? What else do you want? So the prayer of a devotee is, I only want one thing. And we all know what that is. And we all say, yes, Krishna praying, service. But what's really in my heart? So sometimes we ask the question, well, what do you want? And then the following question is, what do you really want? Because Krishna is going to give it to you, if he so desires. Sometimes he'll say, oh, you want that? I'm going to take away everything. And then you only have one thing, me. But are we ready for that one? Who is going to pray, take everything away? Sometimes Krishna is especially kind that he does it whether we want it or not. And that's such a test. It's such a test, because when I don't get what I want, I'm like a little baby who throws a tantrum and I get angry, especially at him. So these weeds, this upasaka, if we can say, we all know we should pull them out, but do we want to pull them out, or do we want to, a little bit? Everything that passes through my hands, some money is given to me. At least I should get something out of it. At least some small percentage, that's even 0.5% or 1% or maybe 2%, that's fair. I should get something out of it. And therefore, when we read about the residents of Vrindavan, it's so purifying, in fact. When we hear the pastimes of Mother Yashoda and Krishna, the gopis and Krishna, the cowherd boys and Krishna, the servants of Krishna, even the trees and fruits of Vrindavan, it is so important to hear these pastimes, because we see that their love, that love that we aspire for, or we say we aspire for, is completely 100% unselfish. There is no sense of, give me a portion of this. It's all about Krishna. Mother Yashoda, in Padyavali, there's a verse that says she would die 1,000 deaths, the pain, endure the pain of 1,000 deaths to save Krishna, one drop of unnecessary perspiration or any perspiration to protect him in every way. This is Braj. And then I see this is Braj. Not the land of cute stories. It's the land of purity, the most fine, elevated, the rarest of all things that does not exist in the material world. It is pure love, no ahankara, no false ego, no selfishness. Kaviraj Goswami compares the love of Srimati Radharani to gold purified in 100 or 1,000 flames. Again, no everything impure taken out, every selfishness taken out, taken out, taken out. And all there is this such pure love. And then in other books, Madhurya Kadambini and Bhajan Rahasya, all these anarthas are going to in so much detail, not understanding the philosophy properly, and satrishna, thirst. I want something from the material world. What can I do? I want something of the material world. And these anarthas, and then there's aparats, offenses against the holy name, offenses against the Dham, offenses against the deities, but especially offenses against the holy name. And especially the tendency to criticize devotees, what to speak of most exalted devotees. One thing I've noticed in, well, first, the bad news about myself, when I first came to Vrindavan, we used to perform Kartik Vratas, and usually, what would you do? I won't eat sweets or something like that during Kartik, or I'll chant some extra rounds. So one devotee, when we were talking about this before Kartik, he said, why don't you do something interesting? And I said, no, what would that be? As a vrat, and he said, why not vow not to criticize devotees? And I said, that's a great idea. That's really interesting. I lasted maybe 15 minutes. That's the embarrassing truth. But one thing I've noticed is that which seemed impossible in those days, years later, and I notice it especially in some of my very dear and much more advanced godbrothers, they really don't say anything. They won't criticize devotees. Or if they're in a managerial position or some position or a position of serving as guru, where they have to, it's their service to do that, they make sure that there's affection in their heart when they do it. Like a father or mother having to chastise the child. It's done not with any enmity or envy or jealousy. It's done out of affection, and that's not an offense. It's for thinking of the person's benefit. You're doing this, and it's going to cause you're going to be watering a weed, and Krishna's going to give you this desire, but he's not going to give you himself. So therefore, Bhava Bhakti is so durlabha, it's so rare. Because Krishna will bestow it upon you when he trusts you completely. One has to become trustworthy, no holes in the pot that cause all the service that everyone does and the chanting and the hearing won't leak. So I'll just end with one, and then we'll move to the next part. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and also in HolyName Chintamani, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his commentary on Siksastaka, he says that if you find yourself if you committed a Vaishnava aparat, or he said, look at your consciousness, examine your consciousness. This is what he said. And look at the Vaishnava apparats, the list of them. We all have seen them. In most temples, they say them every day before japa, or many temples. And see which one you tend to commit. This is what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says. And then make a determined effort not to commit that specific aparat again. Make a determined effort. But he also said that then you should chant the holy names of Krishna continuously. Only continuously. We may not be able to do part 2, even though that's the ideal. But that first part is making our own effort, examining, being introspective, and examining the tendencies we have to offend the holy name, to insult the holy name, and become determined. First be conscious of it, and then become determined not to do that anymore, because it's my own interest. It's watering the weed. Is that what I want? To push everyone down, for example, so that makes me appear better than I actually am. I know that I'm not better. Okay, everyone close your eyes. And just think of what you remember from the list of Namaparads, especially. And see if you have any tendencies. Perhaps you don't. But if you happen to notice in your own activities any tendency to commit an aparat or a Dham aparat or save aparat, bring it to consciousness. And either if you've offended a person, apologize. There's in the Christian monastery tradition of the Benedictines, one of their rules is if you have a disagreement, a fight with anyone of the brothers in the monastery, if you have a fight with anyone, argument with anyone, settle it before the sun goes down. Can you do it? And then offer a prayer. Perhaps. And then I've also seen that sometimes people that we've had this argument with, or we have bitterness and feelings, they leave this world. And there's so much more difficult to resolve the problem then. So there's so much more that can be said, but if you're interested in this topic, there's much reading you can do and much activity you can do. But offer your prayer. Now, if you can go back to the first part of this, first of the verses, part of the verse. So Mahaprabhu wants us to know these things so that we can progress. And the verses of the Shiksastakam are one by one, progressive stages of advancement, progressive stages of instructions for us. It's Mahaprabhu's gift. Nam Nam Akari Bahudha. You have manifested many forms of your holy names. Next. Niva Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita. Your own potencies in them you have bestowed. Nimatas Smarane Nakala. There are no rules of time about remembering them. Literal translations, remembering the holy names. Itadrasi, such is your mercy. Tava Kripa, your mercy, Bhagavan. Mam, oh my Lord, no, go back. Oh my Lord, this is your mercy, although you're such is your mercy, oh my Lord. Durdaivam idrisamihan anujahanuraga. It is my misfortune that in them, in the holy names, I have no attachment has been born. Okay, now for less than 10 minutes, please take out your notebook and just do some directed free writing on this verse and whatever's stuck in your mind from this verse. Begin, please. And remember the principle of directed free writing is that just keep writing, even if you have nothing to say, just keep writing, let your pen do your thinking. Don't think, just write. See what comes up as important for you. Begin. And it doesn't have to be just how many people I've offended in the last 4 days, whatever comes up. Just keep writing. Just keep writing. Keep the pen moving. And the devotees who are supposed to light the candles, maybe they can do that now. And take off the cloth. Carefully, of course. Very carefully.